I'm joined now by Todd Curtis. He's an airline security expert. He joins us live from Boston. And Todd, you were able to watch the NTSB briefing earlier today. What jumped out at you?
What jumped out was that the initial findings from the NTSB seems to point to a situation where there was nothing obviously wrong with the aircraft. There was no emergency declared prior to the touching down on the seawall. There were no system failures that were obvious. There were no special procedures being followed by the crew. It seemed to be a normal flight until the last few seconds of that flight.
And then what about the speed? Because she did go to great pains to talk about how the speed was not what you would expect for a plane coming in to land there at SFO.
Well, she emphasized that the pilots in the cockpit voice recorder were calling out their intended speed to have at touchdown, and that the aircraft was flying considerably slower than that speed. She was quite careful not to give a precise value until they had corroborating information. But it was clear from what she said, and also clear from a witness video that was shot nearby at the time of the crash, that the aircraft was traveling slower than you would expect for that point in the landing.
And it looks, obviously, we're looking at videotape, we're trying to read into what we see, but it does look as though the pilot may have been trying to abort the landing. Is that your read on this as well?
Well, that's not only my read, that's what the NTSB was saying in the briefing, that several seconds before landing, there were clear warnings in the cockpit, a stick shaker as well as an audible stall warning that the airplane was close to stalling. And in fact, the crew had called out for a go-around less than 2 seconds before it actually struck the ground. So the crew was aware that something was going on, and they were in fact taking positive steps to try and go around for another landing, but obviously they were too late to make that happen.
Todd, all of this happens in just mere seconds, so there isn't a lot of time to react. So give me an idea of what's going on in that cockpit.
Well, they were aware of something going on only a few seconds before landing. It's unclear if they had an inkling of something going wrong before that. That will be something that the investigation will uncover, because all they have now are the words in the cockpit voice recorder, but they have not yet interviewed the pilot. So there may be something that they will say then that will indicate that they had an idea beforehand. But certainly the rest of the cabin crew and the passengers really had no idea something was seriously wrong until they hit the ground. And what is remarkable is that in spite of not having any sort of precautionary warning or any sort of preparation, that the cabin crew was able to evacuate virtually everyone from that cabin right before the airplane caught fire.
It is pretty remarkable. Todd Curtis joining us live from Boston. Thank you for your analysis.